everybody, it's your boy Gsluke here for our round 3 prize picks targets for the Charles Schwab Challenge. Quick hitter video here, gonna go with my top 5 props here for Saturday's slate. And first, just a quick review of what we had for Friday, which was a 3-2 record, so 0.4x, not what we're looking for, but only ended up getting hooked on the last 2. So 3 birdies for Abraham Answer. The prop there was at 3.5, and of course Jordan Spieth made 4 of the 4.5 that was required. So it was a little bit rough for us, especially considering that both of them had multiple misses from within 8 feet. So very realistically could have hit the over for us, but not going to dwell on it too much. We're getting a lot closer to that 5 of 5 card, and I'm really feeling optimistic here for the third round. So without any delay at all, let's go ahead and hop right on into it. Alright, on the screen you can see the data golf profile here for round 2. So just to do some research on the golf course, and you can see it played much easier than round 1. So played under par, in fact, right around 0.9 shots difference between round 1 and round 2, and that was almost entirely wind-based. So here for Friday, the wind gusts were only between 3 and 5 miles an hour for pretty much the entire day. And you can see it is going to be a stark contrast with what we expect to see here on Saturday, where there's 10 to 20 miles an hour of sustained winds for pretty much the entire round. And then, of course, in the 30 range in terms of wind gusts for much of the morning, and still in that 20 to 25 mile an hour range for all of the afternoon. So the scoring going to resemble much more of round 1 than what we saw for round 2, where it's played to right around a stroke over par. In fact, could be even more difficult than that. The greens are even firmer and faster than what we saw for Thursday's round, where you had some dampness from the rain that came through the area on Tuesday and Wednesday, and of course with the more severe winds that are in the forecast. So in terms of a scoring average, I would expect it to play extremely difficult. And as a result, I'm trying to avoid a lot of the birdie props and a lot of the stroke props. It's going to be hectic out there. You're going to see a lot of variance, guys that shoot 3-4 over par that completely play themselves out of it. And you're going to see some rough putting. I mean, the pin locations don't look all that favorable either. And it looks like the tour staff is really trying to make this volatile, where at the top of the board, if you're playing solid golf, you're going to be able to shoot something like 2 to 3 under par, but you're going to see a lot of those leaders eject, go out there, shoot something like 4 to 5 over par. Just the pin locations are absolutely devilish. So let's go ahead and hop into the board, and you'll see that because I'm avoiding strokes birdie or better, even something like greens or fairways just seems a little bit too volatile for my liking. In fact, if I was going to have to pick from those, just not anything that it really has a huge edge. Whereas with the matchup board, right, both players are susceptible to that volatility, right? So it's, going both ways for us. And in this type of format, it kind of limits that type of exposure. So you can see we're taking the over on all 5 of these plays. But let's go ahead and talk through each one-on-one and talk about why I like each one of these plays. So on top of the board, you have the Scotty Scheffler versus Davis Riley matchup. You have Scotty Scheffler, who's in first place. He's at 9 under par. Then you have Davis Riley at 6 under. Of course, both towards the top of the leaderboard, so it's not like one is way out in front and the one's the chaser. Both of them in relatively solid position when it comes to their standing. So in terms of motivation, both on a relatively even playing field. Both are going to be relatively passive, not going to be firing at every single pin. But the one key differentiator here is Scotty Scheffler's the #1 player in the world, and Davis Riley is an up-and-coming prospect at the very best. If we're getting a one-on-one matchup where if they end up pushing, it's still just a push, why wouldn't we take Scotty Scheffler, right? I mean, the argument could really end right there. I don't think we really need to talk about it all that much, but the guy's in first place of the golf tournament. He's playing some solid golf. This is a very good course fit for him in the fact that it's an approach player's golf course, and as it gets more and more difficult, that only plays more and more into his well-rounded skill set. So I love the matchup there. It's not like I hate Davis Riley. He is, again, a young up-and-coming prospect here in the PGA Tour, but he's matched up against the #1 player in the world. So for me, it's a no-brainer. I doubt anyone out there is going to be playing the Davis Riley prop, or not very many people out there will be. Next up, we have Jordan Spieth going up against Harold Varner III. And HV3 is a little bit further up the top at the leaderboard. Same thing with Jordan Spieth. I believe HV3 is at 7 under par or 6. And then with Jordan Spieth, you have him at 5 under. And for me, Jordan Spieth has had two beautiful rounds. Even in round one where he shot just one under, it could have easily been something like 5 or 6, had a few short misses for par, also a few lip outs. Same story today. A few short misses for birdie, a few putts that could have dropped, a few chips that could have dropped that ended up lipping out. And even though, he's creeping up towards the top of that leaderboard, I expect his best golf to come on the weekend. And if you take a look at his stats at Colonial Country Club over the years, that has been the case. Over the weekend, he's had by far his best performances. So I expect a lot of those fireworks to come here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area for a Jordan Spieth. And going up against HV3, I don't hate HV3. He's one of my favorite golfers on tour, in fact. One of the most entertaining, one of the best characters that we have out there. The issue is he's matched up against an elite level talent like Jordan Spieth. It's a similar argument to a Scottie Scheffler. I would take Jordan Spieth over pretty much anybody but maybe a Scottie Scheffler in the field. And I mean, it would make sense for, a matchup like Scottie Scheffler and Jordan Spieth to exist, but something like a Scottie Scheffler, Davis Riley, and then a Jordan Spieth, HV3, it's just different levels of talent, right? So obviously, I think most people would be taking the Jordan Spieth over here, but even more so than that, Jordan Spieth has not had his putter to this point, and he has a lot of room for improvement. He loves the green at Colonial, at least over the years. He's had a ton of success at this golf course in terms of his putting stats, and that just hasn't been the case to this point. So if that turns around, if he continues to putt like he did today here on Saturday, and then brings the ball striking that he had on Thursday to the course here on Saturday, he's going to take this place super low. So I like his chances against HV3 again, another no-brainer pick for us. Next up, we have Sungjae Im versus Sebastian Munoz, and this is much more of an even matchup on paper. I think most people would have to think a little bit before choosing a player in this type of matchup. It's not quite the very simple pick that we had with the top two, but in either circumstance, Sungjae Im has lost over 5 strokes to the field with his putting, which for him is very irregular. In fact, he's one of the better putters on tour when he's playing solid golf, and to this point, every other category has been well above average. That includes his approach play, his off-the-tee play. So he's putting himself in position. He just can't take advantage of those positions. And eventually that's going to turn around. I think one thing that people forget about Sungjae Im is that he's dealing with a lot of rust. He ended up having to take time off due to COVID. Obviously on Thursday and Friday is probably trying to shake off some of that rust. But now that he's had a few rounds under him, he's had some practice rounds there on Tuesday, Wednesday, probably on Monday as well. He's going to snap out of it at some point, and I'm hoping it's going to be tomorrow because the matchup against Sebastian Munoz makes a lot of sense. Munoz a little bit hyped up because of some of his recent performances. He is a birdie maker, a very volatile player, but you're talking about extremely difficult conditions tomorrow, right? You're talking about 20 to 30 mile an hour winds, and that's something that he tends to struggle with. He has an extremely high apex height, tends to have a very high ball, and as a result, he's much more impacted by the wind than somebody like a Sungjae Im, for example, that is skilled at actually flighting the ball down low. One thing I will mention about Scottie Scheffler and Jordan Spieth is that both of them are from Texas, grew up in the area, obviously very familiar with this type of blustery wind, right? So they've played in these conditions, they know how to flight the ball down low, and out of the bunch, I would take them in windy conditions over their partner for sure. Davis Riley, young kid, probably not used to it as much. HV3, he's pretty solid in windy conditions, but I'd rather have Jordan Spieth all day there. And Sebastian Munoz, like I said, has that high ball flight, so not ideal for what we're going to see here in round 3. And now we have our last two, which first off is going to be Viktor Hovland, which we're taking the over Cameron Davis. And Cameron Davis, another player that struggles in the wind. So kind of like a Sebastian Munoz, he is a high birdie or better percentage player, which makes him dangerous, but he has a high ball flight. He's kind of known for taking apart easy golf courses. His win was at the Rocket Mortgage Classic last year. Detroit Golf Club, a very wide open and relatively simple, straightforward golf course. And Viktor Hovland, right, he made 5 birdies today, right? Obviously easier conditions, but he's an absolute flusher, going to put himself in birdie opportunities at least, 10 to 12 times per round. And more often than not, he gets that hot putter for, a 3-4 hole stretch. And against somebody like Cam Davis, who is going to struggle in these windy conditions, I don't want to say he's a lock, but, kind of similar to that Scottie Scheffler or that Jordan Spieth pick, it's kind of a no-brainer here, right? I don't think many people will be going to a Cameron Davis because even if you look at birdie or better percentage, which Cameron Davis, that is his best asset, Victor Hovland still edges him and quite significantly in that category, right? So, of course, the volatility is high with both of these players, but you're talking about a much higher floor for somebody like a Victor Hovland. And, of course, when we're taking a 50-50 type of prop, it is all about the player's median projection, not really all about the volatility. I mean, sure, Cam Davis could go out there and make a ton of birdies like he did here in the first round. In the second round, he had a pretty decent day two, but not all that great. Day one was a little bit better. It's just not all that likely, right? It's a ceiling performance for a reason. So really like Victor Hovland to go out there and continue his really solid stretch of golf that we saw here on Friday. And now lastly, we have Sam Burns over Aaron Rai. And Aaron Rai, I like him in windy conditions. So, kind of similar to somebody like a Sungjae Im where he plays well in wind. Same thing with an HV3, kind of known for that ability. But he's extremely, I would say, conservative is probably the nice way to put it. He's not very aggressive. He goes out there, he plays to the middle of fairways, tends to lay up quite a bit, plays to the center of greens, is not very aggressive when pins are tucked. And with all those tucked pins tomorrow, with this wind that we are expecting, I mean, Aaron Rai is just going to be a par machine tomorrow. So it's not really, as much of a knock against his game as much as it's just a knock against his play style. He's not really a high birdie or better percentage player. Whereas on the other side, you have Sam Burns, who's among the league leaders when it comes to birdie or better percentage. He's great off the tee. He gets that hot putter from working from time to time. And today in a matchup against Justin Thomas, was able to absolutely whoop his butt. And you're talking about JT, the winner of the PGA Championship from just last week. So now he goes from Justin Thomas as his adversary now to somebody like Aaron Rai. I mean, just another smash pick, right? So considering the skill set, considering the wind, the fact that Aaron Rai is probably going to be a little bit more conservative this time around makes him a great pick on the board. So because these are matchups, it is just treated kind of like an NBA or a MLB bet. So we just get the 10x multiplier even though we're taking all overs, which makes it just a very straightforward bet for us, right? I'm going to end up putting this main card in. I'm also going to have a few power plays in where I'm doing 4-leg powers, where I'm kind of round robining it. Now, I'm not going to do 5 4-leg powers. I haven't actually put those in yet, but I'm assuming I'm going to do an extra 2 where I'm just taking one of these props out and then cycling in the rest. And in terms of my favorites are the top 2. I also really do like the Victor Hovland prop. So those are the 3 that'll probably be in all my cards. The 2 that I'll end up cycling out will probably be the Sungjae Im one and then the Sam Burns one down at the bottom. That's all I've got here for round 3. Before you hop on out of here, let me know what your favorite prop is down in the comments. And as per usual, we'll have you covered for round 4. So make sure you stay tuned and look forward to that video. Make sure you like the video. Also, make sure you're subscribed to the channel before you hop out of here too. You don't want to miss any of the content when it drops in the future. And of course, going to have you covered for the entire PGA Tour schedule. Best of luck for all of your round 3 bets. Let's get this cash.